All right, I've got to talk about the new documentary from HBO Max. It's called Persona: The Hidden Truth Behind Personality Assessments or Personality Tests. To me, it is such an irresponsible documentary. I just need to vent. So before I get into it, let me just say this is what I do. I'm an organizational psychologist. I would say half of my time is spent using assessments to help organizations pick people that are a good fit for the role that's open and the culture of their company. I also use those same tools to inform my executive coaching, to support team building, trainings, the rest of it. I use them all the time. So I know the territory. So HBO comes out with a personality assessment documentary. I'm looking forward to watching it. And within 2 minutes, I can see that this narrative is being created, which is totally unfair. And that narrative is that personality tests are being used to eliminate a huge portion of the candidate pool. And in particular, those people that come from disadvantaged populations, protected populations. That's the argument that's being made. And to support that argument, they talk about the Myers-Briggs, and they emphasize this across the entire documentary. The Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, which is, they say it's the most popular assessment, and they say it's not very valid, and it's not very reliable, and its origins are not all above board, and it's being used more than any other assessment. By the way, all of that is true, except for one little piece of information which I know that HBO is aware of. The Myers-Briggs is not used for selection. So it can be popular, meaning people may use it on the internet, you could get it, sure, but it's not used for selection. I've been doing this for 11 years. I have never seen an organization use the Myers-Briggs to hire. You would never do that. The Myers-Briggs is a typing assessment, right? It puts you into types, buckets. That's great for personal exploration. It's good for team building, maybe. It's fun. It falls in the same category as the Enneagram, which I've done a video on. Also not a good assessment, but a lot of fun. It's the same bucket I would say is like Strengths Finder, what color is your parachute, the disc, any of those kinds of I'm a red type of assessments. Those are interesting, never used for selection. They're not designed to be used for selection. The type of assessment that's used for selection is called a Big Five personality. They're built off of the Big Five personality model. So the documentary talks about it like it's one assessment. There are many assessments built off of this model, which is that you're measuring someone's openness, their agreeableness, how conscientious they are, their level of extroversion, and the extent to which they worry or experience neuroticism. That's that's how we measure personality. And there is a tremendous amount of data showing that using those assessments, you can get a good read on how well someone's going to fit in a particular role or company. And there's good reason to use that, not only because it affects performance or can predict performance, but it also predicts satisfaction and happiness and engagement in the role, right? It's good for you to be in a job that really fits you. Now, the documentary makes this big push like using personality assessments hurts these protected populations, which just drives me nuts because in my eyes, and I think sort of if you objectively think about it, and I'm going to try and walk you through this, there's no better way. So what are your options? If you own a business and you want to have someone, run the front desk, what are your options? You could interview them or have somebody else interview them. And if you do that, you are at risk for affinity bias. Whoever is doing the interview will want to hire someone that is like them or that they like, right? You like people who are like you, so you are likely to find someone who is just like you, maybe not quite as smart because it makes you uncomfortable that they're too smart. That's what you're going to get. So if you have a white person that's running the organization or a rich person or a male person or a whatever person, right, and you're trying to get more diversity, that person is likely to pick someone who's just like them. And by the way, statistically, your odds of picking the right person via interview, just leveraging your intuition, I don't care how experienced you are as a hirer, it's about 50%. You might as well flip a coin. So interviews on their own, not great. An unstructured interview, the worst. Next, you could look at resumes, right? Who has the best experiences? But think about it. Think how where you grew up, how you grew up, your physical abilities or disabilities, how all of those things might impact your ability to build a strong resume, right? To me, there's nothing that's more impacted by privilege than a resume. So just using that, you are absolutely picking this sort of privileged population, right? So that's out. Or you could use assessments, which are very carefully designed. Every single question, when someone is creating an assessment, not only do they make sure that it makes sense statistically, they also make sure that they screen it against the American Disabilities Act. They're very careful to make sure that all of these questions are as objective as possible. Nothing is perfect, but it's way more objective than going off of an interview or going off of a resume. It's your best bet, right? And the documentary makes this complaint that these personality assessments are eliminating people that have mental illness. And the mental illness that they refer to specifically is bipolar. So the first thing you have to understand is these assessments are not designed to screen out mental illness. They're not diagnostic tools. You don't go to a doctor's office or to a psychiatrist's office and they give you a personality assessment. That's the wrong assessment for the job. And second of all, just think about it logically. Bipolar is a mood disorder. You can be conscientious and bipolar, extroverted and bipolar. All of those, right? It's totally unrelated. So to make the leap that people that are bipolar are not getting jobs because of personality assessments, I think it's just it's complete intellectual dishonesty. And the concern is that the audience isn't thinking about it and they think, oh my God, if I have bipolar, now I'm not going to be able to get a job, which couldn't be further from the truth. To me, it is an intentional misrepresentation of reality in an effort to be provocative. And sadly, I think it's damaging. If somebody, for example, has bipolar, watches that documentary, and then goes in for a job interview and is asked to take a personality assessment, they're going to be immediately fearful about their ability to perform on that assessment. And the reality is the assessment will not screen them out because they're bipolar. It's just not true. So I don't know how many of you will watch the documentary, but if you have watched it, please let me know what your thoughts are below.